Turkey. And how is that going to play into this? Because they are going to see a federalistic Kurdish area as being too strong. And the second question is, which whenever you deal with anything in the Middle East, you have to ask the question about the Israeli-Palestine issue. And I know those are both big questions, but we'd like to get your answer on those.
Let me, with Sam's permission, lead with the first. The truth is the Kurds have the exact opposite concern. The Kurds' action of late relates to the PKP, which is a Kurdish group in western and eastern Turkey, in the mountains, that has been seeking to have a separate autonomy within Turkey. The Kurds, and I've spoken with the Turks, and I've spoken with their leadership, are of the view they're finally having, we say, in the southern part of my state, an altar call. They're getting it figured out. The only thing worse for them than what exists now, which is a semi-autonomous Kurdish region within a defined border, part of a remaining central government that is weaker. The only thing worse is to see the country splinter apart and the Kurds declare independence. The Kurds, in the absence of a unified government, will be a de facto independent state. That's when you will see the Iranians as well as the Turks invading, in my view, Kurdistan, because they cannot sustain the prospect of an independent Kurdistan attracting 4 million Kurds from the west and 3 million from the east for a united Kurdistan. So they figured it out. A defined border that exists now with the Kurdish region being one of the regions within a united government, a united state called Iraq, is clearly in their interest. They understand it, and they know it. Sam may want to start leading with the other question, or both.
Well, let me address this point, because this is the key, one of the key issues. I mentioned that, Iraq has been really less a country, more three groups held together by exterior forces. One of those exterior forces has been Turkey, that have been adamant about this not being broken up. But this is the way to hold it together, by devolving power and authority to the regions. And this doesn't change the Kurdish region at all. The Kurds already have federalism. They already are running their own military and police force in that region of the country. This doesn't change the equation at all. The only additional thing I would add to what Joe mentioned is I think you probably will see the Kurdish region invite a long-term U.S. military presence to house in the Kurdish region, and that it may well be in the best interest of ours, of the Kurds and the Turks, that we take advantage and we do something like that, to see that it be stabilized, that the Kurds not try to split into a separate country, and that we can assure the Turks that that's not taking place. For as far as Israeli-Palestinian conflict on this, I don't see that piece entering into this. It's always talked about. Anytime you address anything in the Middle East, it's always the Israelis' fault. Generally, is the way it's put. But this isn't. I don't think that's a centerpiece issue on this federalism proposal at all.
The road to solution in the Palestinian-Israeli issue is through Jerusalem, not Baghdad. You could have peace, total peace and security within Iraq today. It does not solve the problem in the Palestinian-Israeli equation.
Another question?
Doctor?
Not to be negative, but the basis upon which our U.S. government works is trust. Basis on which our U.S. government works is trust and integrity. Both sides of the aisle have a reasonable amount of trust for each other. They each have a reasonable trust with the judiciary and the executive branches. That's the only way that our system works. Now let's take Iraq by comparison. You have a federalism there. How can you trust all these sheiks to do what they say they're going to do, or go off on their own tangent and be as independent as they have been in the past? That's my first question. Second one is, if we may deviate from the subject onto health care, what's your take that I heard yesterday at Rotary by Senator McCain about giving a deduction for each family in this country toward health care.
We're in a Brownback.
Frankly, if you all want to abstain from the second question, that would be fine. This is on foreign policy. Sorry.
Well, I thought you might ask about health care in Iraq. Be able to determine. I don't know that we can guarantee that the tribal leaders are going to abide by this. I think you can see, particularly in Anbar, the tribal leaders starting to come together and saying it is in our best interest that we succeed with some stability, and then you operate off a basis of mutually beneficial interest. And that's what's taking place to a great degree in Anbar. And I hope there's some model of that starting to take place in the Shia region. We saw a week ago two of the major Shia groups start to say, let's calm down and quit fighting for the future of our country. I don't trust that word further than I could throw any one of the individuals. But I'm glad to hear them talking that way. I'm glad to see the action happening in Anbar. And I think you just operate on this is mutually beneficial. This is beneficial to Iraqis to stabilize. This is in their interest, and it's in the Sunni interest for them to be able to have a devolved power and authority of the regions. When I was last there in January, it was kind of the same old story. The Sunni were blaming the Shia for the problem. The Shia were blaming the Sunni for the problem. The Kurds were sitting up in the north saying, when you guys stop fighting, we'll come in and we'll talk. You know, and that's what was happening. But the Sunni, many of them were saying, well, we're going to be back in power and authority. We've run the place for 100 years. We think we do it best. We're going to be doing that. And the Shia were scared that the Sunni were. So they weren't trusting each other at all. Here you're devolving the power authority to the groups where they can deal with it with themselves. And I think that would be a much, I think this is in everybody's mutual interest. It's why it could work. I think it's why it will ultimately be the status. And I am going to bypass your health question for right now.
Let me ask one other question. Let me quickly respond. The reason why it will work is self-interest, confidence building, and exhaustion. I'm not being facetious. I sat with, I've been to Iraq now my 9th time. I was there just a month ago. I sat out in Anbar province. I sat with the the Sunni chieftains, the Sunni tribal leaders, the Sunni sheikhs, in a meeting with just several Americans and 250 Iraqis. And the leading Iraqi Sunni in the country, Vice President, said, Senator, the reason I support your plan is my heart has been at war with my head for the last 5 years. My heart has told me we Sunnis could govern this country again. My head tells me that will not ever happen again. Our future lies in a federation. Ladies and gentlemen, the day that Washington accepted the signature of Cornwallis and surrender at Yorktown, the people in the state of Massachusetts wanted no part of being in the central government with the people of South Carolina. Remind you of our history. It took us 13 years to get to our Philadelphia moment. 13 years. We had a decentralized confederation because we did not trust each other at all. Our interest on slavery and trade and other issues were viewed to be anathema to one another. It took us 13 years. Confidence building is the key to bringing together the Iraqis. Last point. More sectarian violence, Doctor, from Vlad the Impaler to Milosevic in the Balkans than the entire 5,000-year history of what is now called Iraq. We are 10 years later, 20,000 Western troops, not one killed, not one in 10 years. They're coming together as a unified country to become part of Europe.
Stay on track. One last question. Two, John.
A quick follow-up. Jay Helton from here in Des Moines. Thank you again for coming.